So, gentlemen, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says
he has
adjourned
for today, and we'll be reconvening in about a little over 10 hours from now.
A little over 10 hours from now, that's right.
10 a.m. later today, of course. It was a bit hilarious when he said 10 a.m. tomorrow. And I'm like, wow, that's going to be a pretty long break.
Yeah.
All right. Engulfed in the process. But so far, so good. I think we're making progress. Never mind the speed at which it's been done, but we're definitely making progress. So we'll keep our tabs and keep hoping for the best.
Yes, like they say, never better late
than never.
And never say die.
Well, we thought we were going to be having the results from 13 locations. Plateau State was not quite ready.
Yes.
And I guess at that time, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu had more than his own, had more than enough for today. So he needed his beauty sleep.
Yes. Also from Ebonyi State, apart from the main results that we have, the total. Okay, I'm saying 359,131 people actually cast their vote, and well, we have 20,263
votes that were rejected.
Well, you know,
that's a sum.
Before the elections proper, there were lots of, you had lots of information on social media, and it concerned whether you were going to thumbprint, or whether you were going to index fingerprint, or you were going to pinky print. But of course, I mean, there was this what do you call it, a controversy about the approved finger for thumbprinting, during the elections proper. You understand? Well, I think that was not a very big deal in itself, but then, the cumbersome nature of the ballot paper, and then, of course, how very easy it was to mess it up. You thumbprint, and then there's a way you have to fold it. I mean, while I was voting, I actually had that problem myself, so I was extra careful. I thumbprinted, the ink was there, it was still pretty fresh. So in the process of even folding the ballot paper, in order to drop into the ballot box.
Is there a particular way you have to fold it?
Yes, absolutely. So
the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission actually gave a demonstration.
Yes, about how to do that. For instance,
fold the.
Look at it. Let's assume that this is the ballot paper. He said you could use either of your fingers.
Any of your fingers.
Yes. Apply the ink, vote, and then fold this way, meaning that any part of this paper that touches the ink will be at the back of the ballot paper, and then compress, and then cast your vote. But we have a gentleman in the studio. Before we go to our new studio at the top of the hour,
You're smiling.
Oh, yes.
Libra Sashoma, a lawyer, thank you for joining us in the studio.
My pleasure, always.
Great to see you again.
Let's look at Ebonyi quickly. About 20,000 rejected votes. Out of total votes cast, 379,394.
Yeah, I think we shouldn't just gloss over these issues, because there is a department for voters' education in INEC, and then department, if over time you hear of invalid votes, rejected votes, and it means that somebody is not educating somebody properly, knowing fully well the level of illiteracy of our voters. And so, because I think the attempt should be to capture as much votes as INEC probably can. And so the idea of having 20,000 invalid
30,000,
30,000,
in some cases even as much as 40, 45,000.
Yes, much more than 100,000 invalid votes. Or, you know, for me, it's something that INEC should look into in their retreat and find a way to, you know, reduce the numbers. And then also, another thing that is very, very, you know, frightening is the fact that you hear that, you know, voting didn't actually take place in certain areas as a result of insecurity, or that materials, you know, got to those places, but there was crisis, and so INEC couldn't take votes from those areas, and so, you know, just glossed over them. And yeah, you know, so all of these issues, I think, in spite of all the preparations, the security preparations, you still had all of these challenges. For me, these are areas we also need to identify and find a way of improving on, you know, so that the votes will actually count. Because if you have, let's say, 800,000 registered voters, and at the end of the day, like we have seen consistently, the number of actual voters is usually no more than 50%. In some cases, less than 50. And so there's need to ask questions. You know, INEC had said, you know, they gave out, they had about 14 million more registered voters from the time they opened the window for, you know, registration of voters. And how come, you know, consistently, rather than the numbers increasing from, you know, the new voters that you have registered, the numbers have remained the same. We've never had a situation where we had, you know, 80% or in some cases 70% of, you know, actual voters from the total number of registered voters. So you see all of this play out, and then couple with this, you know, void votes or rejected votes. You know, it becomes very, very frightening that, you know, there's something we really need to do about all of that.
All right, it's really very amazing if our people, a majority of our people, are unable to clearly grasp an instruction that is as simple as identify where you want to apply the ink, fold the paper, and then cast your vote. If we're not careful, we're going to be seeing almost 300,000 voided votes at the end of the day. What does this say? And that's the most basic instruction when it comes to elections.
Let me also say that
is it really difficult to, you know, have people understand this?
Let me tell you.
You talked about the level of illiteracy.
Yeah, let me tell you how difficult it is. You're lucky because you are in Lagos or you are in the metropolitan cities. Do you know, as at the time INEC, you know, in most states of the Federation, materials arrive late. And so as at the time INEC gave instruction extending the voting period, do you know that some states, some INEC officials didn't get that information? In most states. That some of the ones that we spoke with were, you know, confused, that they were waiting, they had to call into, you know, some radio or TV stations in Lagos to actually verify those information, if it was true, actually coming from INEC. And so that talks about, it is also easy here. We see displays from Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, you know, and, you know, Kano, these big cities. But the people in the interior who do not have access to televisions, who do not have access, you know, to the internet, how was INEC able to reach these people to pass these instructions? Because if you find out from the collation so far, when you hear the names of some of the areas where votes were rejected from, you don't hear rejected votes from Enugu or from Abakaliki, you know, or from Lokoja. You hear names like Gorimagogo. That if you are not, you know, somebody who is you know, who has a grasp of, you know, the geography of these places, you begin to wonder if these names actually exist in Nigeria. And so it's even some of the collation officers, they sit, you know, at the state capital, and most of these places have never really have access to them. And so that's why it's a civic duty. It's a very important civic duty, and there's need for INEC also to take it seriously in ensuring that, information, because information is very key. And how you manage and pass your information also is as important as the information itself. You can have all the information, but it's not getting to the people that, it ought to get to. Then you're going to have, situations like this where at the end of the day, you're having, void votes, invalid vote, because the people really do not understand what they are supposed to do. You think, because you're educated, you think it's that easy. Is it not just there? And then we should also, the politicians should also find a way of, there's this idea of, I must go the whole hog. If you put all the numbers of all of these other, I call them fringe political parties, if you put all the numbers together, it's still, in most cases, not up to the number of, the votes of any of the major political parties. So why bother? It's not just today. Even in 2014, we saw the trend like that. The 2014 presidential election, I think the party that came third did not score up to 100,000 votes. And so why, the duplicity of effort of political parties. And so if you also have a reduction in the number of political parties, that will also help the people. That will also reduce the number of void votes, as in terms of, the multiple thumb printing, or your thumb print crossing, the line, the box from one political party to another.